Hey, what's up everybody? I'm Justin with AmericanMuscle.com, and today we're taking a closer look at and installing C&L's drag lowering springs, available for all 2015 and newer non-MagneRide Mustangs. Now you guys should be considering the C&L drag springs here if you're looking for a mild drop overall, but more importantly, you'd like to go with a spring designed to improve your weight transfer, lowering your 60-foot time and 1/8 and 1/4 mile ETs at the drag strip, all at what I would say is a very affordable price point. So getting into our features block here at the C&L drag springs, and first and foremost, let's talk a little bit more about the drop with these options installed. Now C&L tells us S650 and S550 owners alike can expect a drop of 1 inch up front and a 1/2 inch in the rear, which in the land of springs is pretty modest. Now I will say it really doesn't take a whole lot to make a big improvement here with these cars in regards to eliminating the wheel gap, but on the other hand, if you're just simply looking to slam the car, there might be better options for you here on the site. However, the drop really isn't the big story. Instead, it's going to be the unique linear spring rates from the C&L drag springs to help improve your launch on the street or at the track, and ultimately lower things like your 60-foot time, 1/8 and 1/4 mile times. Which is a great time to get into construction here. And let's start off with that spring rate, because again, that really is the big important thing to note. The C&L drag springs will feature a 788-pound linear rear spring, and get this, a 160-pound front spring. Now that light front spring really is the calling card of any drag focused spring out there, because that light front spring will really help encourage weight transfer on launch to the rear of the car, increasing your traction and lowering those 60-foot times. Now the springs again do feature that linear rate, meaning they're going to stay consistent no matter how hard they are compressed, which is a lot different from a progressive rate spring, which does feature changing rates depending on the compression. Now the C&L drag springs are made from hardened steel and, as you can see, are given kind of a navy blue powder coat to help with any corrosion resistance. Now the C&L drag springs will land around that low to mid $100 ballpark here, which makes these one of the more affordable drag options on the site, especially when you start comparing these to options from Eibach or Ford Performance, which are more than double the cost of the C&L springs that we have here today. Lastly, let's talk about the install here, and the site's gonna go full 3 out of 3 wrenches on the difficulty meter, taking you around 4 hours to complete from start to finish. Not really a difficult job, but there is some work involved, including some specialty tools like a spring compressor, so just keep that in mind. Now to give you a better idea of how things will go down at home in the garage or driveway, let's throw it out to the shop for our detailed walkthrough and tool breakdown.
For this install, you need a 3/8 impact, a hammer, a 24, 21 swivel, 21 deep, 18, 15, 13, and 10 millimeter socket, 17 millimeter wrench, caliper hanging tool, clip removal tool, and also not shown be a lift and spring compressor. All right, today we're going to be putting some lowering springs on our Mustang, so let's get started. All right, so first thing we need to do is get our caliper off of our knuckle. So we have a bolt here, a bolt here. We grab our impact and 15 millimeter socket, take those two out. Pop those bolts out. I'm gonna grab our caliper hanging tool and just hang that up and set that aside. All right, we're just gonna take our rotor off now since it's basically just falling off, a little bit of studs, and set that aside. All right, so we're gonna grab our impact and 18 millimeter socket and take our nut off our sway bar link here. Now we have a 17 millimeter wrench that we're gonna hold the backside with, just because it will spin. Once we get that nut off, we can just pull that back through our strut, nut that lean off to the side. So we have our ABS wire that's attached to our strut here. So we're gonna grab our clip removal tool and pop it off here and here. Pull that aside. Now we can take our 2 main bolts out of our knuckle. All right, now we're gonna switch to our impact and 24mm socket. We're gonna take our 2 nuts off of our main bolts here on the knuckle. Now we're gonna leave those threaded on, just start them off a little bit, just so we're not gonna mushroom the end of the bolt here. Grab your hammer and just tap those bolts through. They are splined in, so they don't just spin out. Once you have them both through, take our nuts off. You can lift up on the knuckle slightly. It might help you get it out a little bit easier. Or just take your hammer, just tap them gently through. All right, just gonna push up on our knuckle here a little bit. That'll loosen them up. All right, and then we'll just pull the bottom one out. Just let that knuckle rest down. And we just have our 3 bolts up top, then we can remove our strut. All right, so we have our 3 bolts up top here. They are all 15mm. So we're gonna take our back 2 completely off first. And then as we take our 3rd one off, our strut will fall when you take it off completely. So you're gonna wanna hold the strut from underneath and take that off at the same time. All right, this pulls out from the bottom. Once you have this side out, you can go ahead and do the same thing for the other side. All right, now that we have our front strut out, we have it set up on our spring compressor. We're gonna compress our spring so we can take our top hat off and then swap over to our new spring. So we're gonna compress that, release the tension. We just have a jack underneath just holding it up just so it doesn't fall. There's not any pressure on it. We're gonna grab our impact and 21mm socket and take that top nut off. Set that aside and just release our tension so we can get our top hat and our spring off. Take our spring off and our top mount. So now we have our strut set up with our new spring. You just want to make sure you orient it correctly. It will only fit into the bottom one way, also will only fit in the top mount one way. If you need a reference, there is a logo on it, just make sure you can read the logo. So we have this set up and we're going to compress it down so we can get our strut top through our mount. All right, so we're gonna put our nut back on the top, grab our impact and 21mm socket, and tighten that down. One thing you just wanna make sure is make sure that the bottom spring is in the bottom of the mount. Got that all tightened down. We can release our pressure. Take that out, and like I said, just make sure that that spring is seated in the bottom of the rubber bushing down there. Once you have this one done, you can go ahead and do the same thing for the other strut. Now we're gonna get our strut back in the car. So we're just gonna line up our top 3 bolts. And then thread on our factory nuts. So we'll grab our impact and 15mm socket and tighten our top 3 nuts down. So we'll get our knuckle back into our strut, get that lined up. There we go. Get that bottom one in first, and then it's nice and easy just to pivot this. Get that in. Put our nuts on the back side. Then we'll grab our impact and 24mm socket and tighten these two down. So we're gonna get our sway bar link back in place. Just like that. Thread on our nut. We'll grab our impact and 18mm socket and then our 17mm wrench to hold the back side and tighten that down. So we're gonna put our wire back in place now. So we get our clip down here and our one up here. Just like that. Now we can put our rotor back in place and then reinstall our caliper. So now we have our caliper off our hanger. We're gonna get that back over our rotor. Get that lined up in place. Then reinstall our two 15mm bolts. And hand thread them in first. Then grab our impact and 15mm socket and tighten those two down. Once you have this side all buttoned back up, you can go ahead and do the same thing on the other side. All right, so we're gonna disconnect some things at first in the rear here to get our shock and spring out. So first, we're just gonna pop our ABS wire up off of this tab. And then our harness here, there's a clip. We're just gonna use our clip removal tool and pop that out. And then lastly, we're gonna take this 10mm bolt out here. Grab our impact 10mm socket and zip that out. That's just gonna give us enough slack and everything so that we can drop this side of the subframe down. So we're gonna start by getting our shock out of the way. So we do have a pole jack just supporting the knuckle so it doesn't drop down. Grab our impact and 18mm socket. Take these two top bolts out. All right, so I moved our pole jack out of the way. I have it on our subframe, ready to drop that afterwards. So we're gonna take these two bottom 15mm bolts out. So impact 15mm socket. All right, so now we can take our shock out of the way. All right, so like I said, I have our pole jack supporting our subframe. We're gonna take these two bolts out first. We're gonna grab our impact and 13mm socket. Then we're gonna switch to a 21mm socket and take the main subframe bolt out. All right, now we're gonna come back to the rear of the spring and you'll see your other subframe mount bolt. Same thing, impact, and we have a 21mm swivel socket. Just get in there a little bit easier. All right, now we're gonna lower our pole jack so we can get our spring out. You can just slowly lower it, and then you can just take it off the pole jack completely, just to get you a little bit of wiggle room. Just pull down on the subframe. And you can get your spring and top mount out of the way. So now that we have our factory spring out, we just need to get our new one in. You'll see in the bottom here, where the bottom of the spring will go into the bucket. We're just gonna take our factory isolator off of our factory spring, put that on a new one, make sure it stops right there. I'll probably move around, but let's get this in place. Get that in place. And we can raise our subframe back up. We can start by reinstalling our back subframe bolt here. So we have our back subframe bolt threaded in. We're gonna grab our impact and 21mm swivel socket, tighten that down. Now we can go to the front mount. So we're gonna put our front mount in place. We'll thread the big bolt in first. And then our two 13mm bolts. Now we'll grab our impact and 13mm socket. We'll tighten our front two down first. And switch back to our 21 and tighten our big bolt down. Now we're going to put our factory shock back in place. Line that up and we'll put our bottom 2 bolts in first. All right, so we have our 1 bolt threaded in here. Get our second one in. Grab our impact and 15mm socket and tighten those 2 down. So now we have our pole jack under our knuckle. We have our top mount lined up for our shock. We'll thread our bolts in. Grab our impact and 18mm socket and tighten those 2 down. So we just have our 10mm bolt for our brake line. We'll thread that in. Grab our impact and 10mm socket, tighten that down. So now we just have our harness and push that back in place, and our ABS wire, lock that back down. And once you have this side all put back together, you can go ahead and repeat all those same steps for the other side. And that wraps up our install of our C&L drag spec lowering springs for a 2015 and newer Mustang without MagneRide. And remember, for everything Mustang, keep it right here at AmericanMuscle.com.